Hello and welcome to another Friday Facebook Live. Hannah's laughing because she was just taking the piss out of the way I say hello. Hello. Welcome to Friday Facebook Live. Today we have as you can see, the GrowTraffic team. We're going to be debunking some SEO myths. And I'm actually quite looking forward to this one because I love doing the SEO myths and debunking them. It's a piece of content that we regularly put out on our blog post. About once a year, someone will write a fresh blog post about all the SEO myths that are going on, and then we can call them out for being stupid. So that's what we're doing today, and we're all a little bit hysterical because it's quite warm and Hannah's about to give birth, so who knows what can happen. So essentially, I've got 10 myths. I'm going to throw them at you, and we're going to debunk them. But before that, just introduce yourselves. Hannah, who are you?
Hello, I'm Hannah.
Hello.
I say I'm Hannah.
And Simon Dalley, who are you?
Funnily enough, I'm Simon Dalley.
Amazing. You haven't
Who
got
are you, Rachel Weinhold?
Rachel Weinhold. We have one of the 3 directors at GrowTraffic, and these are the other 2. It's great fun. Anyway. Let's get going before it all descends into too much.
This is the only chance we ever get to talk to each other.
Yes, literally the only time. Right, okay. First of all, SEO myth number 1. SEO is a one-off activity. Discuss.
No. Myth number 2.
Yeah, myth busted. Move on.
So we have quite a few clients who come to us and they want SEO as a one-off piece, don't they? They want us to do a piece of SEO work, which basically they want us to fill out Yoast and make sure all the lights go green on Yoast, and then people think, oh, that's going to magically work now. Yeah. So why is that not the case? Why do you need more than just filling out Yoast?
So I think if I think back in the midst of time, way back when I started out in kind of SEO, what used to happen is, so this was probably at the time where businesses had built their first website and it was rubbish and it didn't work for the search engines. It might have looked nice. Sorry, I'm trying to find my camera. I've put my camera the other way around today. Let me remember where it is. So all the websites used to be horrendous. They never ranked. And so, some businesses had okay websites that ranked. Then there was a kind of period, probably around 2006 to 2010, where all those businesses that had shocking websites suddenly built new websites, and those websites included some of the standards that have been learned in the last kind of 5 or 10 years of the internet and of search engines, and they suddenly started ranking. And everyone remembers back to these times. Everyone remembers stories from these times as well about how businesses, went to an SEO and got their website optimized, and the keywords were put in the right place.
Oh my God, everyone remembers those stories. I remember my parents telling me those stories when I was a little girl.
I think a lot of business owners, do know those stories. Do know other business owners who experienced that, or even experienced it themselves when they were at a business at that time. And so they come to us with that same expectation, but everybody has an optimized website now. Or if it's not optimized, it's search engine friendly in a way that it wasn't kind of 10, 15 years ago. And I think the landscape's also changed. Every business is online, or just about every business, and it's just so much more competitive. It's a different world. Every time
it's about numbers, really, isn't it? Because if you think, 5, 10, 15 years ago, there just weren't as many websites, so you had a much better chance of doing a little bit of optimization of getting those rankings. Whereas now, there's billions of websites out there, billions. You're swimming against the tide, really, aren't you?
Every time that we optimize a website, though, every time we do the on-page work, we improve it. There is always a potential to improve the rankings. It's just nowhere near as the jumps you get tend to be nowhere near as good as they were.
I think the other thing as well, when you were saying about people come to us and they have, they have their stories, their campfire stories, but it's usually, that there's been a website that their mate optimized 5 years ago and it did really well, and they only paid £1,000 for it, and now they want the same thing. And why are they all of a sudden having to pay several £1,000s to reach the same position? And it's hard kind of having that conversation of convincing people that it's changing month by month, and mine year on year, isn't it?
I think as well, like SEO, if we think about it in its broader term rather than just the kind of on-page stuff, it is, and you think about what Google wants, they want a website that is really informative, that's really useful, that they can crawl, that's going to give people the answers that they want. And you can't just tinker with your code, tick some boxes on Yoast, get your green traffic lights, and be fulfilling, a really decent user-friendly website. It's more of a kind of whole package of activity that needs to go into your search engine optimization, and it's something that needs constantly refreshing. Not necessarily the on-page stuff, but it does need tweaking and refreshing and refining. And so you can't just do SEO, can't just do it once and then expect that's it, your website's going to rank. Especially when you look at what your competitors are doing, you need to be as good as your competitors, better than your competitors. And if your competitors are doing something and you're not doing it, you've not got a cat and else chance.
I mean, it's what we always say to our clients, isn't it? That that on-page stuff and that filling out Yoast, it is absolutely what we do, but it's the first step of what we do. And yes, you can do that, but you're not going to see massive results. And if you really want to rank, you've got to keep on going and then do the things that build on that, which we'll talk about more as we come along. But yeah, I always say to people as well, if you want to rank number one on Google, you've only got to beat who is currently ranking number one on Google for those keywords. And when you look at those top ranking websites, time and again, they are big sites. They've got a lot of content. They've got content that's been categorized really well. They've got a really good navigation. The user flow and the user experience are really good. And they are adding to them time and time again. And that's just what you see consistently with the top ranking websites. So it's, it's not hard to see. If you've got a 4-page website, you might have Yoast filled out to the, nth degree. But it's not going to be a big website that's been consistently worked on.
I think it's interesting because you're talking about Yoast, you're talking about on-page optimizations, which is anything like it. Yeah. But there are constantly things happening and developments. Looking in the wrong place, and developments and changes that require certain kinds of technical kind of SEO updates to be carried out as well. So, there are potentials all the time for big improvements via kind of SEO that could just be done on a one-off basis. I mean, look at when they introduced HTTPS as a kind of standard. They rolled it out slowly over time. They gave everyone 6-month warning, and then the first page of the cert, probably to start off with, it was like 10% of it was HTTPS, and then by the end of it, you slowly saw it going up like 25% and 70%, and we kind of knew what was going on. Look at the mobile first kind of changes that have been. I mean, they rolled out for years. They were working towards the mobile first index for a long time, and those are all kind of I know what you're saying about putting all the keywords in the right place on the page, but there are still opportunities for one-off bits of optimization.
Oh yeah, oh no, absolutely. And again, it has to be so. I mean, that's the reason that you would have an SEO either expert within your business or a company that you work with, because the algorithms are constantly changing and they're constantly bringing out updates. And if you haven't got somebody, monitor, that's our job, isn't it, to keep up with all those updates, and then we can do those make those required changes for our clients. So yeah, that's what we're saying, isn't it? That what I call you're getting your website tick box ready. It's phase one, but it is an ongoing process. I'm going to move us on because we've got 10 myths to get through and we can't spend all that time on that one.
What was that myth?
That myth was that SEO is a one-off.
Myth busted.
Myth busted. We should have a big graphic, shouldn't we? Myth busted. Okay, number two. And number two, this is the number 2 and number 3 are related to each other actually. So number 2 is that SEO is a slow burn, and number 3 is that SEO is a quick win. Discuss.
Yeah, they're two sides of the same story.
Yeah.
I would say SEO can be a quick win, but is normally a slow burn. How about that?
Yeah, I think that's fair enough. I think, you know, there are absolutely some client websites that we have taken on, and you make a few small changes and within a couple of months you can see some instant results in those rankings and the amount of traffic they're getting, and it tends to be the ones that are really poor to begin with. You know, if they've got very little on-site optimization on them, or they've not been updated for months, or the navigation is appalling, or, you know, the graphics are 5 years out of date or whatever, you can make some really small changes and you can see some instant, you know, quick wins, but they're quite minor still, aren't they? You know, you'll jump up a few places in your rankings, you'll get some rankings, but you don't then sustain them if you don't carry that ongoing, do you?
Yeah, I think it depends on your sector, and it depends on what you consider a win. So if you want page 1 on 70% of your keywords, and your keywords are quite broad, then you might achieve that, but the 30% that you're not ranking on page 1 for might be the kind of money terms with the high search volumes, or the real clarity of the user, of the searcher intent. So that's like, it depends how you judge winning, and also it very much depends on your sector. So some sectors are renowned for really being incredibly competitive, like retail, like you know, clothing. Retail is just insanely competitive. But then some sectors are quite easy to get some quick wins on because there aren't many people doing it. So like people on the tools, you know, trades are quite easy to get a decent grasp on because there aren't very many people that have really good websites that really invest in that sort of SEO and kind of marketing strategy in those sort of sectors. Whereas in clothing, as an example, you're going up against, you know, H&M and Next and Amazon.
Yeah, people with really big budgets. Yeah, engineering as well. We've done quite a few kind of engineering websites, haven't we? And again, because they're not creating, you know, a lot of content, they're not really focusing there because it's never been where their primary route to market has been. You know, you can get those quick wins. But I mean, SEO, for example, I mean, we've been doing our own website for 10 years, and we do rank. You know, we are quite good at our jobs, so we do rank well, and we get a lot of traffic to our website. But that has taken us years to achieve because obviously everybody else in SEO knows how to do SEO, so we're up against the best, aren't we?
Yeah, so it can be, and we always say this to clients as well. A lot of it comes down to budget. So if you're pottering around doing, you know, a kind of blog a month, and you've got like 3 pages on your website, and you're going to have them optimized, and like, but all you're going to do is just some on-page optimization, then you're not going to see anything really happening within a few years. You know, certainly within a year, nothing groundbreaking would happen, again, depending on your sector. But if you're chucking loads at it and you're backlink building and you're putting on loads of really good content and you're doing some really good categorization on your website and it's really user-friendly and you're supporting it with some social media and some paid activity, and you kind of do the whole thing, you're going to see results much quicker. So like, I feel the frustration of our clients when they ask me how long is this going to take, and I always say it depends. And you know, you can feel that they're getting really annoyed, but it really does depend. There's so many factors that come into it. It's impossible.
And it's absolutely what you said as well about it depends how you are measuring success.
Yeah.
If you are measuring success as I want to rank for some keywords, then we can get you ranking for some keywords quite quickly. If you're measuring success as I need 10 new clients on the books, then, you know, that's harder, because then it's either a numbers game or it's finding that you know, really targeted traffic that is going to convert and getting them to take that next action. So, you know,
yeah. Sorry. And if you're trying to get a really specific outcome, like I want 10 new clients, and you're doing it with a really small budget, that's going to take an awful lot longer than if you have you know, 10 clients and I've got this budget, or 10 new clients and I'm in this sector that's got not a great deal of competition. Like, so there's so much that goes into it. It's difficult to say without doing the research, and that's why we always advocate that.
Yes,
I think a lot of it as well. Sorry, Rachel.
That's right. Go on.
I think a lot of it comes back to what we were saying earlier as well. That there's a lot of kind of expectations from clients kind of mixed up in all this, and we've got to do our bit as much as possible to kind of educate them about what is achievable and what we can do. But there's so, I mean, most people don't realise that there's not one version of google.co.uk. You know, every town and village and all the rest of it probably has a different version. So it's something like 1,700 different versions of the SERPs in the UK, which is crazy. And if you want to get if you want to, you know, achieve just a fraction of the traffic that Google says is available, you've got to rank pretty much everywhere, and that's now impossible for most businesses unless they're a really big brand.
Or they're willing to dedicate and understand that this is a long-term strategy, and they're going to have to stick at it and continually do it. You know, again, you can get there. You can chip away at it. Yeah. Okay, I'm going to move us on, because again, we've got quite a few to get through. So we've done myths 1, 2, and 3 busted. Myth 4. This is, again, I've kind of rolled 2 into 1 here because I think they're both interesting. So first of all, keywords is all you need, and you're better off if you target the higher volume keywords.
I love keyword strategy. I love looking at keyword search volumes and relevancy and competition and ambiguity and digging into this.
You can get sucked into it. When I'm doing audits, I have to try really hard to not get, you know, you could literally spend hours just doing keyword research, couldn't you?
This is why audits take me so long.
So 2 things. I mean, keyword, if we look at keyword strategy in terms of, you know, just, I'm sure anybody watching this understands what a keyword is. It's the word that you are going to use to target on your website and the word that you want your website to rank for. So it is really important, first of all, that you pick the ones that are right for you. And a lot of the time, this is again why we do an audit at the beginning. A lot of the time, customers will come to us and they will say, right, I've got these 10 keywords, I want to rank for these. And we're like, well, how do you know those are the right ones for you? How do you know you've got any chance of ranking for them? Do you know what your competition is like? Do you know how much money they're spending on going after these keywords? You know, so a big chunk of whether or not your strategy succeeds will depend on which keywords you choose in the first place. But the theory used to be, didn't it, that you would, once you'd picked those keywords that you wanted, you just put them bloody everywhere, on every page, in every paragraph, on the front end and the back end and everywhere else, and you would inevitably rank. And that's not true anymore, is it?
No, in fact, don't do that.
Yeah.
I think go on.
No, there's a delay on this.
What I find fascinating about keywords is how the algorithms interpret the intent of the user and how it starts to predict what you mean, and how it uses your like profile on Google to tailor your search results and give you a really kind of unique answer based on what it thinks you want. So like when
it always makes you laugh when our clients come to us and they say, I'm number 1 on Google for all my keywords, and you're like, how do you know? I Google myself every morning.
Yeah, no, yeah.
Sorry, Karen.
I Googled the other day CO2 tanks because I was doing some research for someone who they sell I can't remember what they sell now, CO2 tanks, but like huge industrial ones. And the ambiguity was insane. It was like, did I want to buy a little one for just a party, or did I want it for brewing, or did I want it for carbonating drinks? And like, did I want massive industrial ones or portable ones? Or, you know, it was just, I just love that you have to try and, like, when you're picking the right keyword for the right page, you have to try and understand what Google thinks you mean, not what you think you mean. And we see a lot with people that come to us, they think that their keyword is going to be one thing, and actually when you type that in, it's something, Google thinks that is something entirely different. And you find that they're the ones with the highest search volume. Like, if I see a keyword that's got an enormous search volume, it usually sets alarm bells ringing straight away that it's going to be an ambiguous search term. And actually the ones with the kind of middling or smaller search volume sometimes end up being the better ones. And sometimes it's better to have a search volume of 10 or 50, where you know that you're going to have 10 or 50 really engaged people who are really specifically looking for what they want, knowing what they want to find, than 20,000 people that you've optimized the page for, and actually they're going to go on and do a few more searches because Google was serving such ambiguous results.
This is why it comes down again to how do you measure your results? Because if you purely wanted traffic on your website, if that's what you were after, then you could go after those big money shots and you can get, volume of people onto your website. But if most of them weren't then looking specifically for your product or service, you're going to get, your engagement will go down, the time on page will go down, your bounce rate will go up, and then again that negatively affects your website, doesn't it? So it's always finding that balance, and sometimes it's hard to explain to clients when you're saying, I know your traffic has only gone up by 5 people a month, but those 5 people were really engaged and they were really looking for you, and you can tell because you've got, you've had more inquiries, but it's finding that balance, isn't it?
Yeah.
Dalley, you look deep in thought. What have you got to say on the subject of keywords?
I was going to say that it is about getting the right balance between the money terms that really will drive revenue and ultimately conversions and sales, versus the kind of more informational terms that will drive traffic, increase your site's relevancy. It's tough, isn't it? Because it's really easy to focus on one bit of it, because you can get one bit to work, and then even if you get the top rankings for a lot of those kind of what you would consider to be your money terms, often they don't bring that much traffic, and they don't bring that much conversion, and you can spend a long time trying to achieve them, and spend a lot of outlay a lot of money and resource on making it happen, and it not always deliver what you think it might do. And often the best way is just to get a really broad range of different types of keywords, of kind of all the different kind of long tail keywords that you can mix in. But equally, you can find yourself having done that as well, and find yourself in the same position where you've got loads of traffic from all these different long-term keywords, but very few conversions. So it is just about getting that balance right, and you don't know really until you've done it what's going to work. If it works, great. And often you say, right, we've done this, we've achieved this, it hasn't delivered what we hoped for. What's the change of strategy? What do we do to do something? How do we do it differently next time?
And that's one of the reasons why, in terms of how GrowTraffic operates, we always go on 3-month bundles, because you need 3 months to be able to kind of go after a set of keywords or an activity or whatever, and then assess how that's going, and then make decisions. And some clients want to be tracking the keywords every single day and checking the traffic every single day, and then that's not worked after 2 days. Like, stop doing that and we'll do something else. And you know, you do have to have a lot of patience in this game, you know, in order to say, right, this is what we're going to do, and we're going to do it for 3 months, and we're going to hold our nerve, and then at the end of that period, we will assess that. What did we do? What impact did it have? What have we learned? What are we doing for the next 3 months? And sometimes a lot of that is just holding people back and saying, in terms of clients, you know, whoa, you're just going to have to wait and be a bit more patient. But you haven't got the massive dramatic results that you wanted in 2 weeks.
I think as well, like a common mistake that we see people making is they go after an awful lot of keywords in one go and kind of not dilute their efforts, but especially where someone's got lots of services, lots of different services, it can sometimes mean that your relevancy suffers slightly if you're targeting a huge variety of keywords that are seemingly unlinked. So it's better to go after kind of one primary and a few secondary and then a few long tail that are all sort of relevant for a while and get ranking for those and then move on and target something else, rather than just scattergunning and trying to like optimize your site for 40 million keywords.
Yeah, it's like when you say to clients, can you what's your keyword strategy? Send it me through, and you get like a 15-page Excel spreadsheet. Like, okay, right, we're going to move on because we are.
Can I just say on that, the flip side of that is when people optimize an entire site for 1 or 2 keywords.
Yeah. This is it, and this is why SEO is so and search engine optimization generally is so tricky, because it's all like don't do too much of this, but don't do too much of that. You've got to find the balance in the middle. Right, anyway, so that's myth 4. Keywords are everything. Busted. Myth 5. Domain authority is God. Discuss. I think first of all we should just explain what domain authority is. Dalley, explain that.
What domain authority is? It's a metric created by Moz in order to try and shed some light on how Google's attribution of kind of link factors works, if that makes any sense. So when Google first came out, the thing that made Google unique was that they worked out that instead of just looking at the keywords on the page, they worked out if they created a kind of voting system based on the links that were coming into websites, they would be able to provide a better kind of search engine than the competitors. It's called PageRank. I think it's still pretty much the fundamental part of their algorithm. So yeah, DA, domain authority, is Moz's attempt to kind of simulate that and give us some indication on what Google might be thinking. It's a made-up metric, though. It's a made-up factor. It's quite, there's a lot of link vendors and domains out there that have, a high domain authority. And when you start looking into it, it's something that's big fudged. It's Google wouldn't consider them high authority websites.
I mean,
there's an indication.
Yeah, there's also a load of other metrics, aren't there? So I think Ahrefs has their own one, and there's Alexa rank, and there's all sorts of different organizations have given these metrics as again. So just to explain domain authority a little bit, usually your average website will start off with a domain authority of 0. The top websites like BBC, Facebook, they have a domain authority in the high 90s, or I think the BBC has a domain authority of 100 at the moment. Most small to medium businesses need to sit at between kind of 25 and 45 if they want to rank, but it is absolutely just an indication. And sometimes you can, we've had client websites with really low domain authorities that have ranked and converted well, and we've had client websites with really high domain authorities that have not ranked and not converted well. So it is just a general rule of thumb, isn't it?
and the domain authority that you need, and depends, our favorite word, entirely on what your competitors are doing. I mean, I have seen websites that rank really, really well with that rank higher than, God bloody hell. I've seen websites with a low domain authority that rank higher than websites with a really high domain authority.
Yeah.
So like Dalley was saying, it is just an indicator, and especially like off Mars or whatever, it's estimated. It's important that you are doing things that would build your domain authority as part of your SEO strategy. But I think domain authority, like keywords and on-page optimization, needs to form part of the entire picture. And a strategy that doesn't include anything to build your domain authority or isn't doing any backlink building is lacking. I think it is, a well-rounded strategy would include backlink building.
Yeah, and that's one of the best, that and Ahrefs kind of metrics are the two go-to kind of industry standards to do that. But you're right.
Just to clarify that, Dalley calls it Ahrefs and I call it Ahrefs, but we're talking about the same thing.
I call it Ahrefs.
Yeah. Carry on anyway.
Who's right?
Oh,
who knows?
Who knows? Nobody knows.
Do you call it SEMrush or SEMrush?
SEMrush.
I call it SEMrush. I have always called it SEMrush until recently. I've started calling it SEMrush.
How do you call it, Dalley? SEMrush?
I think it's SEMrush, but I've always called it SEMrush.
Do you call it Sir Ranking as well?
Oh, the metric jokes.
Nerds. Wow, when did this happen to me?
Well, you decided to join us, so it's all your own fault. Anyway, but yeah, you're absolutely right. None of these things can happen in a vacuum, can they? And you could just, like I said, when I was auditing a website last week actually, and I can't remember what the keyword was, but there was a few kind of keywords related around this one service that the company provided, and consistently there was this website ranking that had a domain authority of 5 and it had 4 backlinks, but it was a really, really good website, and those backlinks were really, really good, and it was outranking websites that were in the 30s and the 40s consistently across lots of different keywords. So yeah, sometimes there's no rhyme or reason to it, is there?
And
well, I think that's just because those other factors are becoming more and more important. Google's been saying for a long time that you shouldn't just concentrate on your backlink profile.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of SEO people out there, and I see them all the time on the online forums, who just think SEO is about link building. That's the primary focus of all they do, is get more links and rank. But they miss all of those other kind of, all the factors and create loads of kind of quality content and all that type of stuff. And then they wonder after a while why they've kind of hit a limit in what they can achieve.
I'm going to stop you there because we have another myth shortly that goes into more about backlinks, so I'm not going to let you talk about backlinks anymore. But for now, can we say myth 5, domain authority is God? Busted. Right. Myth 6, you can buy traffic.
No. Move on.
There is, and we have to have full disclosure here, don't we? There is another company called GrowTraffic from America, and they do sell traffic. So they are the kind of selling traffic, GrowTraffic, and we are the organic white hat GrowTraffic.
Just want to point out that they set that business up in 2015, 5 years after us.
Yeah, and we get quite a lot of messages, don't we, on Facebook from clients going,
customers.
unhappy customers saying, I bought this traffic and now it's not working. And you're like, no, but if you want some organic, proper white hat SEO, we're happy to have a conversation with you. So why is buying traffic not a good idea?
We should just clarify, when we say buying traffic, we don't mean pay-per-click.
No. It's where you literally buy, you pay a certain amount, usually a subscription per month, and they will send traffic to your website so that it gets your, traffic up. But it's a false economy, isn't it? Because it's not targeted traffic. It's not people who are actually looking for your product or service.
Half the time, it's not actually people.
No, it's not. Bots.
So there's a couple of ways of thinking about this. Actually, I was reading something about this last week, or might be this week, that there is an argument to be said that a certain amount of kind of bot traffic sent to your website in the right kind of way, done strategically. So we're not talking about buying it off Fiverr, but there is an argument to say that could improve your rankings by creating positive user signals. Obviously, there's going to be a massive digital footprint for that type of thing. Lots of people are doing it, so you'd have to choose how you did it. But there's thoughts that it could have some benefits. But you're right, most of the fake traffic that is out there is just random bots that get fired at you, or you buy an iframe at the bottom of somebody's website. So when you open the page, it opens your page as well, and it counts as a visit to your website, but they've probably never even seen the page that opened at the bottom of that page they were looking at. So it's not the best way to go about things.
So the reason that you might buy traffic, just to explain, is because Google works on the basis that it wants to return a website in the search results that's really informative, that people like to use, that lots of people go to, that gives good answers, that's not spammy. And so the more traffic you have going to the website, the more likely you are to rank if that traffic performs well on your site. So people look at several different pages, they come back for return visits, they don't bounce off, they spend quite a while on a couple of pages, or they read through a page really thoroughly, or they spend a while on your site in general. Bot traffic doesn't do that. It just hits it, and it tends to hit it and come off again. So you'll see, if you look in your Google Analytics, you'll see bot traffic, it'll send your bounce rate up. You'll see kind of thing, if you look in where your traffic comes from, it'll usually say 100% bounce rate on like 20,000 visits or whatever. So it's like, when you're talking about getting traffic to your website, paradoxically, you need good traffic in order to rank, and you need to rank in order to get traffic. But it's the quality of your traffic that you get in, which is why buying traffic to your website, it might seem like a good idea because you're getting the traffic, but it's poor quality, so it's it's pointless really, and you won't benefit from it.
And just imagine if you put that £120-150 a month that people are using to buy traffic, if you put that into some proper or organic or white hat SEO or whatever, you would see much more sustainable results over a longer period of time, and you would get a better return on that investment in the long run. So it genuinely is a false economy. So on myth number 6, you can buy traffic. The answer is yes, you can, but it's not a good idea. Yeah,
and don't do it on your social media accounts either whilst you're at it.
No, don't do that. No, yeah. Don't buy followers. Yeah, no, it's just never a good idea. You will always get found out. They always know.
And that's the thing. Like Google have been honing their algorithm for donkey's years, and they are really keen on making sure that websites are decent. And if you look at the algorithm updates, the big ones and the little ones that they release, the majority of them are improving the experience for the users and stamping out any underhand activity. And like, we'll get on to backlinks, but backlinks was a big one, and changing the way that people could get links to their website changed the industry. And they were just trying to stop people doing really shady shit, and keyword stuffing was another thing. So like you can hack the system, but you won't get away with it for long, because either Google will figure it out when it crawls your site and you'll be penalized or you'll be dropped, or an algorithm update will come and your entire strategy will be wiped out because you've been doing things that they're aiming at stamping out. So it really is just better to do it white hat and you know, play by the rules. And they consistently say, just make really good websites. When Google are asked, how do you rank? Like what's the trick? So there isn't a trick. Just make really good websites that people want to use. That's the key. And they mean it. I mean, they don't mean it because they have all these algorithms and updates and stuff, and they have people like us jumping through hoops. But like on the surface, they just want good websites that work well for people, and people will go to it. And
but this is it, and this is perhaps one of the biggest SEO myths, isn't it? Is that, you know, SEO is some sort of hack, and you are trying to, you know, hack your way around Google or get a quick win around it. And actually, if you're doing SEO correctly, you know, we've got a poster on our office wall that says, yeah, I'm not afraid of algorithm updates. And if you are doing it properly, you are not afraid of algorithm updates, because you've been doing something to genuinely improve the website and improve the experience for the user, and you're not doing anything underhand. You're not trying to cheat the system. You're not trying to get those, you know, quick wins that might be, you know, they might be a little bit dodgy, but you know, they'll help us rank for now, so we'll do it. That's just not what we do, and it's not a sustainable way of doing it, and it is such an old-fashioned way of doing it. And even, you know, there are, of course, there are some people out there who are still doing what we call black hat SEO. You know, probably they're on, like, well, I'm not going to name names, but you know where to find them, and you're probably going to pay £5 an hour in order to get them to do it. But most SEO companies that I know now are all about the white hat and just do it organically, do it sensibly, do it the right way, and it will pay off.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so you have brought us nicely onto myth 7, which is the more backlinks you have, the better your site will rank. Discuss.
No. It depends.
Yeah, it depends. It's part of the metric, isn't it? So when you're starting to think about putting a strategy together for backlinks, you're going to look at the number of backlinks that competitors have, the domain authority that competitor has, you know, the domain authority of those backlinks, where they're targeted, what their relevancy is. Number is a factor that you consider when putting a kind of backlink a link building strategy together, but you don't necessarily, you know, it wouldn't be the number one thing that I'd go to and say to a customer, you've got to get X amount of backlinks. I'd be talking about the domain authority first, and then if we'd achieved the domain authority, if I was confident the page was correctly optimized and you still weren't ranking, then you might start talking to them about other factors, and one of those might be the number of, I suppose it's the number of domains that are linking back to you. You might probably look at, and also things like the C-class IP. You know, because back in the day, people used to get lots of links, but when you start to look into them, they're all coming from the same data center, or even sometimes the same racks on the same server cage. And so you know, you start looking into it in that kind of detail as well.
But also, it's not just about the number, is it? It's about where are those backlinks coming from? Because you know, we've seen this with some of our clients. You can have much more success with a few really good backlinks than you can have with hundreds of shit ones, or you know, ones that have been bought, or ones that are of a really low quality, like say hundreds that are all from the same website. You know, it's more about less but fewer but better, isn't it?
Sometimes. And when we go and look at, like, firstly, a backlink is when somebody else links to your website from their website. When we look at the reason why Google consider that a factor, because like if you're putting out really good content, that's really relative and informative and answers a question and serves a purpose and blah, 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 people will naturally want to reference it in their own work. So let's say, for example, you have a website that's selling IT services and you are putting out content that's really great about Office 365 and it's really informative. And then another company who also talks about Office 365 or sells IT services references your work in their work as being a really good source of information by linking to it. That's indicating to Google that actually your website has got something really worthwhile on it. And this is a useful and really interesting article. So backlink, it is the IT version of referencing. It's the SEO version of referencing. So, and citations, as you would in academic text. So when you're looking at quality over quantity of backlinks, you could have 100 backlinks coming from websites with good domain authorities that have got bugger all to do with your website, which are going to be less valuable than a handful of backlinks from websites that are relevant to your website, because it's proven to Google that your site is one, it's kind of underpinning what your site is about, but also it's saying that you are actually really informed and knowledgeable in this particular area, and therefore your site should be returned higher in the results.
Well, a backlink is a recommendation, isn't it? So, having a recommendation from other people in your industry saying this is a good quality site that we found useful is obviously going to be better than having recommendations from ones that have nothing to do with you. So, when you break down what Google is after, it's actually quite common sense.
What were you going to say, Dalley? I heard it all though.
The other thing to consider as well is that even if you get the most relevant backlinks from within your sector, but you get them at volume and they are low quality, you have the potential of reducing your domain authority as well, because it's because of the way that the kind of, it's a logarithmic scale. So the more backlinks you get at the bottom end, the more likely it is to drag down your score.
And we've seen that.
That's the other thing.
We've seen when clients have done something slightly dodgy, you can instantly see that when you look through their backlink profile, and you can see that their domain authority has come down and they've actively damaged themselves. I'm gonna move us on because time is marching on. Kate, hello Kate, joined us again. Kate has just commented quality, not quantity, which is actually myth 8. Quantity beats quality when it comes to your website content. Discuss.
Ooh.
No, if you've got loads of shit pages, and by shit I mean really thin on content, not relevant to each other, not optimized, badly written, then no. But you do need the quantity as well of good content. Have I frozen, or are you both thinking?
Sorry,
I think frozen.
No, I think all of our Wi-Fi went slightly out then. Dalley's frozen. I thought the cat was sat.
No, I'm just sat still.
Is that still right? Okay. Right. There is an element of needing volume of content. There is absolutely. You cannot have just 5 pages on your website and be expecting to beat the big boys. But again, there is an argument, and it's about finding that balance, isn't it? That is, as you've quite rightly said, having 100 pages of absolute shite on there is not going to do you any good whatsoever. Whereas if you had 10 pages of really good, in-depth, quality, articles or blog posts or whatever they be, of several thousand words each, that's going to serve you better than uploading the hundreds of pages. But again, it's that balance and industry subjective, isn't it?
Unless your lots of pages of a couple of thousand of words look dog shit, in which case that's going to damage you more because your user Signals. Oh, thanks. Signals. I know what I'm talking about. Because you use the signals will go down. So
I think
again,
as well,
it depends.
as well, it's really easy to, if you don't produce content strategically, you know, if you're just kind of bashing content out time and time again, it's really easy to find yourself writing almost the same article or the same piece of content time and time again, just in a slightly different way. And again, that's not really any benefit to anyone. That's spamming as well. So even if it's great quality content that you're putting out there, but it is just the same stuff regurgitated time and time again, that's not going to do you any favors.
Or if it's really vague.
Or if it's vague. And I think that Google is going through the index at the moment. And there's been several discussions that I've seen about this, and kind of removing people's old blog posts much more aggressively than they used to be from the index. And I think part of the reason for this is that there's so many people out there creating so much content that it must cost Google an absolute fortune to crawl all those pages, when most of them will never see the light of day. They'll never get to the top of the search. They've not been relevant to anything since 2012. So why is Google still crawling them and indexing them and costing themselves money?
Yeah.
I think as well it comes back to your sector, and this is why it's so tricky in Google in SEO to give a firm answer, because it's so sector dependent. So we did a bit of training, I suppose, a few months ago on the optimum length of that content should be for different sectors, based on some research Dalley had done. And it's not surprising really that some sectors need plenty more content than other sectors, because you're competing with your competitors. You know, the only people that you need to beat in the SERPs are your competitors. So, for example, in digital marketing and content marketing, we need to churn out a lot of content because all our competitors are churning out a lot of content. And because we're churning out content, they need to churn out content. So blog posts are really long, content was really heavy. Whereas in some sectors, again, to use the kind of trades as an example, I think mechanics, was it automotive, had the least requirements. Their blog posts were like 350, 400 words long and stuff, because not many people are putting out lots of content. So when it comes to the size of your site, it's UX, user experience, how well it works. It's the quality of the writing. It's your keyword strategy. And it's what are your competitors doing?
And is there a justification for that content on there as well? This is the question that people fail to answer or ask themselves even. Is it justified to have that? Is it adding something? Is it useful to the user? If it is, or if it isn't, take it down, because it won't be doing any good. But equally, if you've crammed 5 services onto one page, and you could easily have a page for each of those, you've got a justifiable reason for having it, then do that. So the amount of content that you are creating and having on your website is determined by so many different factors, and again, there's not one size fits all, is there? But definitely, sorry, as Kate said, the rule should be quality over quantity.
And it's interesting what you said about cramming all your services onto one page. And this is why I have take real umbrage with one-page websites, or, really small websites. Because if you go back to what we were saying about keywords and how you shouldn't have more than one keyword on each page, and you should have one page per keyword. If you're trying to optimize for, say, you're a cleaning company and you want to do oven cleaning and deep cleaning and domestic cleaning and commercial cleaning, and you put it all on one page, what the fuck are you going to put your keyword down as? There's a real reason for breaking that out. And it just goes back to what Google just want: websites that work for people, decent websites with decent content that answers questions and works well for people. And if you do that, you'll be all right.
And that's the irony, isn't it? You hear people say to us all the time, they're like, "Oh, people don't want loads and reams of content. They just want a website that's got the phone number on there." And you're like, "Yeah, I can see why you think that. I can see what the justification is." But actually, you know, a one-page website with just a phone number on is actually not.
Oh, she's frozen.
Yeah. I do think that
Get you anywhere, so it's counterproductive. So it's finding that balance between. Sorry, it's because someone's ringing me, so apologies. Carry on.
Name and shame. Who is it? Who is it? Is it Dad?
I don't know. Have a look.
I was just going to say though, you know, a lot of what we've talked about is kind of, we've talked about written word, haven't we? And there is all of that other type of kind of rich content that needs to be considered, and increasingly so. You know, there's the videos, there's the podcasts. People are consuming media in different ways, and it will change how websites are ranked. You know, it is changing how it has changed how websites are ranked. It will continue to do so. I know we've got voice search, which is slow. It's you know, it's slowly kind of coming to the fore, and that again, you know, that massively changes the role of the search engine.
I'm going to move us on because I'm sorry, we're rapidly running out of time, and we have one more that needs discussion, and then the number 10 is an obvious one. So I'm just going to go. So myth number 8: quantity over quality. Sorry, the other way around. Yeah, busted. It depends. Anyway, right. Myth number 9: domains and URLs don't matter. Discuss. So I'm just going to clarify this one. What this one means is, so there's two things kind of wrapped into one here. First of all, there's the issue of the domain. People think still that they need to have their keyword and their business name and stuff in the domain, and they're not going to rank the website if they haven't got the keyword in this. So that's one thing. But the other thing is that people think that the URLs and stuff, you know, people will add up, go into Yoast and change the slug without putting a redirect in. They will take one website down and put another one up with a completely different sitemap and URL structure and everything else, and think that it's all right, and never put redirects in. You know, why is that damaging?
Well, first of all, I'm gonna be slightly controversial and say that in certain situations, having a keyword in a domain can be quite beneficial. So there are, you know, especially things like local search. There's lots of opportunities for using perhaps even an exact match phrase within a domain to benefit your rankings. So way back in time, that everyone used to do this. Everyone, and you think you can see remnants of this, like B&Q's website is on DIY.com.
Yeah.
You know, all of the everyone's website used to be on an exact match domain until 2009, when Google started clamping down on it, and they started to recognize brands more. And I should have said this when we were talking about keywords earlier. One of the things that people fail to consider when they think about keywords is the role of the brand in giving kind of trust signals to Google, which obviously also help you rank as well. But in terms of keywords in domains, there's still opportunities there. But go for the brand if possible, and try and get a short and snappy URL domain, sorry, if you can. Redirects, obviously you've got to put your redirects in place if you're changing websites, or if you are migrating to a different domain. You need to do things like submit a change of address request through Search Console, which people don't think about doing or don't know they have to do.
I mean, but essentially, because we are running out of time, so essentially your website and your URLs and everything, they have been sat there, they've gathered, you know, authority, whatever, people just switch one website off and switch a new website on, and you've lost everything that you had, you've lost. Whereas by just putting some redirects in and doing a migration strategy where you just think about it for a little while, sensibly tell Google that this page is not here anymore, but it's now here, then it just makes all the difference and allows you to keep all that. It means you're not starting from a standing start again. So yeah, if you are working with a web developer and you're going to get a new website built, and they say, oh yeah, we'll switch that website, we'll switch a new website on at 3 o'clock on Friday, just say, what's the migration strategy? How are you going to do that?
Just to simplify that down even more, if like Google files, when it crawls, it indexes your website based on the URL. The URL is the www.blah blah blah / blah 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 whatever. So it stores your site based on that, and so all your rankings are pinned to your URL. So if you then switch off that URL and put your page on another one, you've lost the old page. So that's why
it's exactly the same as postal addresses, isn't it? It's like getting your post redirected. So you've been sending all your posts to one house. You suddenly move house. If you don't tell anybody, your post just goes there, but it's been sent to an empty house. It's the same with the traffic. The traffic will all go there, but there's nothing there.
But you mitigate that by doing redirects and informing Google and stuff, and it's not impossible to mitigate. So don't be afraid of changing your URL. Just do it properly.
Redirects, absolutely. Yeah. Right, we are up to. In fact, we're slightly over time, so we're going to wrap it up, guys. So that's 9 SEO myths busted. SEO myth number 10 is that SEO is a scam.
Boo! Go away.
No, it's not. No, and this is the thing about. There are some SEOs out there who are just trying to scam you. And if you hear anybody say to you that they can get you on page 1 of Google by next week and they'll do it for 100 quid, they are scamming you. But GrowTraffic are not, because we are an ethical SEO agency. So basically, have a chat with us. But it's not a scam. It's a genuine thing. It can genuinely make a massive difference to your business.
It's important for business owners to go into it with their eyes open, though, isn't it? That it's what can be achieved for your budget. Understand that this is a kind of marketing tactic or function, and that you it might work, it might not, and that if it doesn't work, then you've got to change your strategy, change your approach, do something else.
Well, yes, that's it.
Element, it should be part of a rounder overall marketing strategy and business development strategy. So you can't just invest in SEO and expect it to radicalize your business. It will help, but it should be part of an overall strategy.
Those days,
and you've got to have realistic expectations about what you are able to achieve based on your budget, your length of time, and the sector you are in, basically. Yeah. So that's it. 10 SEO myths busted. We're slightly over time, but I've enjoyed that one. It's been a good one.
What time is it?
It's 3 minutes.
It's only 3 minutes time.
We're not miles over. It's all right. So thank you very much for everybody who's watching.
Where you gotta go?
If you are catching up and watching after, and you would still like to put an SEO myth to us that you would like us to bust, please put it in the comments or send us an email, info@growtraffic.co.uk. We will happily bust any myths that you have about SEO. So thank you very much for joining us. It's time to, we've actually been on for 63 minutes. I think it's one of the longest ones. Anyway.